and stream. Hi, this is Ron Nutter with another installment of Get the Mic On here. Try this one more time, just when you think you're ready, then technology surprises you. Hi, this is Ron Nutter with another installment of Are You Disaster Ready? For the past several videos, we've been talking about different things that you can do. Well, one of the things that I touched on briefly in the last video is protecting your online accounts, because in an emergency, that is going to be one of the last things that you're going to be thinking about, or having been involved in some disasters is the last thing you should be thinking about. So it's all a process, and you'll be seeing more of these videos at the URL listed below, as well as I'll be posting these on YouTube, because this is something that, as a former volunteer responder with emergency management, I've seen firsthand what can happen. If you've got time before a disaster happens, that's great. You can go everything by the numbers, make sure that you've got everything documented. But if you're not sure, you can go to this link on the bottom for a special report that I've created that gives you a checklist to go through. So we're going to attack this from two different angles. First, we're going to look at it from if you're dealing with this before a disaster happens. So if that's the case, now's the time to go through. If you're not using a password manager, or if you are, make sure that what you've got is right. If you haven't been using a password manager, please, ideally, you should have a separate password for every account you've got, and hopefully a separate username. Now, some sites insist on using your email address, so there's only so much you can do there. But go through, if you're not sure all the sites you've been to, if you go through saved passwords, if you've been having your browser do that, that at least gives you a start. But that's something that, especially if you're using a computer other than yours, you should never do. It's a convenience factor, but if somebody else gets hold of your computer, you've just handed them the keys to the kingdom in most cases. So assuming you haven't been, let's start. Nothing else, just take a pad of paper and start writing things down. Write the name of the website, the URL you go to. It's like www.facebook.com, the username you use, the password you use. And it just as important, and this can be very helpful, is record the security questions. Now, that's a little thing in the grand scheme of things, but if your account has been locked out because somebody has tried to guess your password, and the owner or person running that website has locked out your account, those security questions could make it a lot easier to get back in. So in the notes field of whatever password manager you have, and before we get too far, I'm going to give you two examples, and these are two that I am using. There are a host of them out there. First one we're going to look at is from a company called M7 Software. It's known as M-Secure. Any password manager that you look at should be multi-platform, and by that I mean it should support Windows, Mac, Android, iPhone. So no matter what platform you're on, you've got access to it, because the beauty with M-Secure, and you can get it to do this. Now, I haven't tried the new version 5 yet. That's just starting to come out, but there were a way, if you got into it under the hood, that you could get it to synchronize into a cloud account, and that way it could get you back in. So that one can manually do it. Now you can also do it device to device. So if you've got your iPhone and your PC side by side, They both have to be on the same network. So if you've got wireless versus wired, you might have to put them both on wireless because it is rather particular on how it will find things. But you can manually synchronize them that way. But if you've got a multitude of devices like I do, where I've got several Macs, an iPhone, and Android, it's a lot more seamless if I can just have the program when it automatically comes up, do that synchronization. Now that's where our next candidate is from LastPass. Now that one, it used to be totally for pay. They now have an option that's free with some exceptions, but you know, that's only right because they've got bills to pay too. This is one that has multi-platform support, that has, you know, a lot of the same features that the one from M-Secure, M7 software does. So they're both kind of tomato as to what they will do. And that is, try them out. If you've got the time before something happens, try them out. And as you're going through and auditing your accounts, verifying your username, verifying the password, writing down the security questions they've asked you, doing, you know, everything that's unique about that account, you want to make sure that you've got written down, even to what cell phone they may send an SMS or text message to for authenticating you into the account. If you have the time to do it, there are some advanced options, and we'll go over this in another video, that you can further protect your account. But right now, my whole focus is just on getting you to where you've got your accounts documented. Now, if you haven't gotten this before, disaster strikes, okay, doing something is better than nothing. So when you've got some time or just need a mental distraction, start writing down all this information, because you're probably not going to have your computer or one of your computers with you that has this on it. So start going by memory, start writing this down. It's going to give you a little bit of a mental break from the situation you're dealing with, but it starts getting you thinking about how to get in. So that's something that as you go through it, and then even if you aren't in a disaster, go through and mentally jog your mind. Because one of the things that should come up for you is finding out that you've got the same passwords on multiple sites. That is something that also you should correct now while you have the time. Don't let yourself get caught with this. So that is something that, when you go through the report that I've got here, I list all the information for the two different password managers. And folks, normally these are affiliate links. This one, I will tell you, as of today's recording, is not, because to me it's more important for you to choose a password manager and start using it, even if you change down the road. And there are usually ways to migrate between one password manager and another. So if you start with one today and decide it's not for you, not a problem. You should be able to transfer between password managers without having to re-enter everything. So that's where, it's just getting a process started. And this is not just going to be a one and done situation. You're going to need to periodically revisit this to make sure the information you've got written down is right. Sometimes URLs will change. And in light of the recent problem that came out with Equifax, if you haven't protected your Social Security account with the Social Security Administration, do so now. There are some things they started doing 2 years ago that has kind of set the stage for what other government websites should do and what some private websites should also follow suit with. So that's something that I don't want to keep harping on things. It's more important for you to get everything documented and get started, because the sooner you do it is one less thing in an emergency situation that you have to worry about. So it's just one step at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. If you do it 5-10 minutes here, 5-10 minutes there, think about doing it. And I've even gone so far as I use one password manager for all my personal items and one for all my work related, so that if I, for example, were to change jobs, and let's face it, in IT that's fairly common, all I have to do is erase that password manager from my phone and tell it to erase the data files. I now no longer have access to that. So that should make an employer feel very comfortable with it, because then I'm also not worried about deleting work-related things out of my personal password manager. That may be a little more extreme than some people want to do, but it's at least a start. So, one step at a time, you just get started. If you have any questions, certainly you can reach out to me at this URL, and then we'll just take it one step at a time. So if you please get started, have any questions, you can reach out to me through the comments. I'll be more than glad to help you, give you some tips here and there to make it a little bit easier. And then, it's just one step at a time. So appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you next week. And again, make sure that you go for that special report, and that will give you a checklist and some checks and balances to get things started. And thank you very much for your time.